Welcome to session 1 of how to kill a bad habit. And let me begin by saying I'm so proud of you for making this choice to get something out of your life and make a positive change. And let me say this journey begins with awareness. Specifically, what exact habit or behavior am I trying to change? We need information to make informed decisions. There's a great story of General Patton during World War II. He had to face off early in his career with the feared Nazi General Rommel, who literally wrote the book on tank warfare. And as the movie displays it, there's really this tension that builds up. How can Patton possibly win against this general? But as the battle proceeds, it is a rout. Patton is entirely successful against his enemy. And as you're left wondering how was he so successful? The camera pans up to Patton, and as he looks out over the battlefield, he cries out in victory, "Rommel, I read your book." And you realize that it's in assessing his enemy, he was able to overcome. In being a student of the problem, he was able to be successful. And that's where we need to begin too. What specific behavior are you trying to change? Carl Jung said it this way, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Or to quote G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. So let's analyze the nature of our temptations. And this is where James helps us. In James chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, he says, each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it's conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, brings forth death. He says each person is tempted. All of us have different things we're wrestling with. And whether you call it a habit, if it's an addiction or a sin, it all begins with a desire. It begins with temptation, and then it ends with, as he says, death. And for many of us, that's where it becomes conscious for us. We engaged in a habit we thought would be relieving of pain, bring pleasure into our life, feel good, and maybe it did for a bit. But then it led us to a place we didn't want to be. It led to the absence of life. It costs more than we want to pay. And that may have been what drawn you here. I'm engaging in an activity that's leading to death. I don't want it anymore. But as you look upward, all bad habits, addictions, sins begin with temptation. And James helps us analyze the anatomy of a temptation. He says each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. That lure is it gets your mind's attention. You start thinking about a certain activity. And you don't just think about it, it begins to entice you. It stirs your affections because we're wired that way. What you think about will be what you care about. And what you care about, you will chase. And so before we kill a bad habit, we have to understand how it works on us. You have to think about what you think about. Paul told Timothy, watch your life and your doctrine closely. Persevere in this because you'll save both yourself and your hearers. You want to save yourself from the consequences of bad behavior? It starts by being a student of yourself. Think about what you think about because what you think about will be what you care about. And what you care about, you will chase. So what do you entertain in your mind? And let me encourage you, this is where often shame comes in to block this kind of analysis. But I want you to try your best to push shame down and be a student of yourself. Get curious and not condemning of your own life. Ask yourself, what's the behavior specifically I don't want to do? And get as specific as you can. It's watching TV late at night. I don't want to do that anymore. It's eating after this certain amount of time or eating in these environments. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to constantly scroll on my screen. I don't want to think these negative thoughts as I drive to work. I don't know what it is for you, but be as specific as you can. What's the behavior I want to stop? And then look at what's the beliefs behind it. What am I thinking about this behavior? And how does it make me feel? What do I believe it'll give me? What do I believe it'll help me accomplish? And then I want you to analyze the environment because all behavior is a function of a person and an environment. And as you do that, look for clues. It's like the board game Clue. It's a person doing a thing in an environment. Watch yourself. Where is it that I do the thing I no longer want to do? And look for patterns. It's usually this time of week. It's usually this time of night. It's often after these meetings. It's normally after this occurs, I want to do this. Just be a student of yourself. Get curious, not condemning, and just analyze it. So here's challenge number 1. I want you to get out a piece of paper and write out, as specifically as you can, the anatomy of your temptation. What do you think about? What do you care about? What are you chasing and why? And then after you do that, put it away. You did something good. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just know you did something great today. You analyze the temptation, and when we come back, we'll learn how to defeat it.